late games that people have really become accustomed to seeing with this team.
And I think Liquid, when they win, they tend to win pretty quickly, especially in Best of 1. So we'll see what they have prepared here versus TSM. They banned the Nocturne, taking that one away from Drig. They banned Swain as well, who has put in some flashness. In fact, TSM felt the brunt of Forbidden Swain yesterday. But certainly when it's picked, it seems pretty good. Talia and Jax also banned away. So a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, the Jax is the most interesting one to me because, you know, yes, that is a jungle pick as well as a top lane pick, but it hasn't been of especially high priority. So it must be something either from scrims or a specific counter pick that they're trying to get off of the table for themselves. And we'll definitely have to keep an eye on that one because it is a little bit out of the ordinary as far as the common bans right now.
Zoe is not, though, and Team Liquid do ban that as a...
Not a problem.
Step 2. Your team has destroyed a turret.
Don't get cocky. Not a problem. I've got a feeling about
it. An enemy has been slain.
I know what I'm doing.
An enemy has been slain. to Summoner's Rift. Seconds until minions spawn. Minions have spawned.
Popular, very high presence. Not this game, though.
Yeah, not this game. It means we're going to have new picks from actually both of the supports because all that we've seen from Biofrost is Braum and Morgana. All that we have seen from Hakuo is that Rakan and Morgana as well. So these guys are going to have to bring out something new. Still the potential to have mage or double melee bottom lanes, these sorts of things, but we have been seeing Stixxay prefer to play marksman. He has played 3 of 3 marksman, and Apollo has only kind of strayed from that in the one game on the Vladimir, which is still available, but it would be kind of putting Clutch as a very magic heavy profile. So I am expecting to see a standard marksman pick, at least from the side of Clutch, or you really do risk getting too magic heavy.
Clutch will further invest into the support bans here, taking Alistar off the table as their final ban of this match. And it looks like Varus will be that last ban there for CLG, saying, hey, we know that Apollo does like to play these traditional marksmen. Still, let's go ahead and take one of those out.
Could just be an Ezreal here for Stixxay. Lucian is still available up if they want to play something a little bit more aggressive. Kai'Sa, another good option that is much more of a scaling option. So I think this makes a lot of sense. Now you have CLG where it's kind of more early and focused mid and jungle. You have 2 really strong scaling late game carries in the Aatrox and the Kai'Sa. So you now have these side lanes that you can kind of choose either side to really get out to and try to snowball. And I think that gives CLG quite a few options. I like this draft already a lot more than their one yesterday against Liquid, and they're leaving their support pick for last to try to get some sort of advantageous bot lane, perhaps really good gank assist for if the Olaf and the Aurelion Sol want to come down there. So Clutch is going to have to be somewhat careful with that, and already go Lucian to try to get an advantageous 2v2 themselves, and we know how good Hakuo can be on this Thresh.
The Thresh Prince of Bel-Air once again going to show up and see what he can do with that champion. We saw this be so crucial in Clutch Gaming's playoff defeat of TSM at the end of spring last split. We'll have to see if it's going to be just as paramount to a victory here today against CLG, as they're hovering over the Tahm Kench as the response to that one, and they will lock it in.
Yeah, and I think Tahm makes a lot of sense. Anytime you're playing into a pick-oriented champion such as Thresh, being able to have the Tahm Kench for the Devour is so powerful. The other pick they hovered was the Shen, and I think Shen could have made quite a bit of sense there also, especially when you're pairing up with someone like the Aurelion Sol who loves to roam around. You can join in on that and having Kai'Sa for the dive, but Tahm Kench certainly the safer of the options. They're going to have, kind of a front line here with the Olaf, with the Tahm Kench, and a fair bit of safety for the Kai'Sa, for the Aatrox. And the game plan here for CLG is very clearly have Hui shove in mid, get out to the side lanes with Reignover, snowball the Kai'Sa, snowball the Aatrox, and that is what they're trying to do, where Clutch is happy to play farm, happy to scale up. They have the late game secured, I think, with the Mundo and the Trundle, if they can play a more passive style, not get behind.
And you already mentioned the Aurelion Sol being the pocket pick here for Huhi, but it's almost a level beyond that. Remember, this was once such a terrifying prospect for everybody that went up against CLG. It was banned for so long just because everybody was just not ready for the possibility of playing against it. Those days have passed. It doesn't quite command that same level of terror in its opponents as it used to, but this man is very experienced on this champion. He knows the ins and outs of Aurelion Sol, and if he can get off to that successful start like you were talking about, shoving in the lanes, moving around with Reignover in particular as a duo, these guys can take over the early game real fast.
Yeah, it's also one of those things where I feel like people forget about who he's Aurelion Sol once in a while. Then he gets a game, he carries the game, people are like, oh, guess we should start banning that again. I mean, all time, he has a nearly 70% win rate. Just about 69% win rate on this champion. Pretty insane. So, going to command a lot of respect. He is going Phase Rush and Ignite. So, this is actually a pretty aggressive setup and one that could allow him to actually have kill pressure on the Swain. So, not going to be going for a TP, not going to be going for a defensive summoner. Really wants to be able to have the ability to pressure. And CLG is looking for a sneaky level 1 here. They're trying to use Huhi to push back Febvin so they don't get vision of them going into the brush. But see if Clutch is going to be aware of it. Oh no, Lyra.
Lyra walking into the brush, could be in some trouble here. The stars come out, the damage comes down, and Lyra goes home in a body bag. First blood over to CLG.
I'm actually pretty disappointed in Clutch's preparation. When you see the mid laner shoving out like that, we know CLG does a lot of these creative level 1s, and when the mid laner is pushing up to buy space, that does give you the ability to sneak in there and not respecting the possibility.
And as CLG are off to quite a fiery start here at the beginning of this game, quick reminder that later this afternoon, Biofrost will be joining Freak and Zyrene on NALCS tonight, and will be answering your questions. Send them over our way via Twitter using hashtag NALCS. We'll see which one of those they can answer. And right now, the answer to this CLG invade early on is Solo having to flash.
Yeah. He has to flash. Lyra gets first blooded. The kill goes to Huhi, and Huhi didn't even have to use his own ignite. It's Biofrost that spent that. So that is going to feel really, really good for Huhi and for CLG in general. I think Clutch is doing a pretty intelligent response, though, kind of just answering by taking their opponent's blue. And Reignover, yes, he is low, but he's intentionally getting low here so he can actually power clear. Here, this is one more time. Huhi pushed them back to deny vision. But when you lose vision of that side brush, you have to respect the fact that this could be happening, and Lyra just needs to simply back up. Because once the Olaf catches you, once the Tahm Kench catches you, there's no point in flashing. You're already dead.
Yeah, the Acer Predator replay there showing exactly what can happen with just a little bit too much disrespect of where your opponents may be early on at that level 1 juncture. And with Lyra already down, that nice early advantage for CLG can result in something like what you're seeing now. It's Huhi and Reignover looking to make a play in the top side against this level 1 Mundo.
Darshan needs to actually tank this with the Bloodwell. They can make this dive happen, but TP's coming in.
Coming in, looking to stop this now. Darshan surely going to lose the passive here. Reignover already grabbing the kill. Now on to Solo. 2 TPs coming in, still looking to make some sort of a return kill for this. Darshan taken very low. One more auto attack from Apollo should be able to seal the deal. Darshan trying to get out of range of that one, but the piercing light will take him out.
And this is kind of a lot to unpack because they do trade back a kill, but it's 2 TPs. And how much are you going to lose on bottom lane? Like, that is actually pretty costly for the roam. Lyra was shoving up mid lane, but now bottom lane, they're going to be losing perhaps a fair bit of farm. We'll see how it all does shake out in the end. But CLG certainly looking good in these early stages, being very proactive. This is when their strength has been. We have to see if they can continue this play. And Aatrox is a unique champion because he has the built-in GA. So Darshan is already at 4 stacks. He just needs to get 5. He tanks up the turret with the Bloodwell passive, allows Reignover and Huhi to finish him off, and then double TP coming in. I certainly wasn't really expecting the 2 teleports to come in, and that's allowing them to complete it. They do get the kill on Apollo, which is going to be very nice for them, and we'll see if he can now kind of get an advantage on the bottom side with that kill.
Yeah, we've seen a few early tower dives with the way that the meta has been very shaken up recently and the way the game just feels more volatile as a whole. And honestly, these anti-death champions are the ones that really catalyze it the best. Being able to, like you said, drop that turret aggro, provide the safe option, get those extra couple of seconds, and CLG playing around that, specifically using these tools that they've drafted, is what you want to see from a team that we were criticizing for being too far into the peaks and valleys. Yeah, and honestly, where I need to see them be consistent is later stages of the game, because I think that CLG is one of the best teams in the league at the early stages. Their pre-planning is super smart, as we saw with their level 1 First Blood. They know how to move around the map. They know how to kind of snowball advantages, but they don't always get the most continuing, with that. They don't continue to increase the advantages, and even just this play is nice. You threaten the roam top. Now Mundo is getting zoned off all these creeps. Darshan doesn't have to actually do anything other than just kind of walk at him, and he's going to miss a couple minions. He missed the cannon, and that is just going to put Solo even further behind. And you already mentioned how this is Darshan's first game of the split on not Ornn. And Ornn is a low economy meatball. You don't actually need much for Ornn to be useful because you can always blow the horn as long as you're level 6. But this time around they're saying, hey, we want to make sure our top laner's in a good spot so he can do this 1v1, so he can split push, so he can be effective, and they're putting so many resources into making that happen. They want him to succeed. Yeah, they certainly do, and now Huhi trying to threaten to roam down to the bottom side. One of the things that Clutch really needs to do is actually get vision in the river. That's one of the best ways to actually kind of deal with Aurelion Sol. If you can get wards throughout the river, you can track those roams a lot more easily and kind of respond to them more safely. But as of now, Huhi certainly is getting a lot of value out of these roams, and CLG could potentially look for an early Infernal since they do kind of have the mid-push very heavily. They have top lane advantage as well. And that Aurelion Sol, you can see the stats on the side of your screen, nearly a 7 KDA, a 10-3 record in his NALCS career, over a 75% win rate that comes out to, some sort of numbers slightly bigger than that, but very impressive stats here for the Star Dragon. And look at the farm too. As much as he's been out of his lane, as much as he's been rotating around and affecting other areas of the map, he's still out farming his opponent. Yeah, and that's really kind of one of the powers of this champion. He pushes better than almost anyone else, and when you take Dematerializer on top of that, it becomes super extreme. And yeah, 75% win rate in NA, so even better than his total career win rate that I was mentioning earlier, which did include international play. And Huhi has been so good on this, going for early Swifty boots. He wants to be out on the map. Movement speed is so important for this champion because it's all about positioning and when the orbs are hitting, when the orbs are not hitting, really being able to kind of manipulate that very, very well. And also dealing with, actually, there's quite a few slows on this team, from Mundo Cleavers and Trundle Pillar and all these sorts of things
that he is going to have to deal with.
Just continue farming up here in the mid lane for now. Does have level 6 available. With Voice of Light online, that makes those rotations that much more threatening. Febiven also having level 6 means that he can enter into that Ascended form if they get into a big extended fight. So CLG will have to be careful about Febiven being able to follow up if they don't execute quickly enough.
Yeah, and they want to go to the blue now. They want to try to repeat steal this away. They had the mid lane push. Aatrox can roam down and join them. And you can see Solo doesn't know, is this a blue play? Is this them coming to gank me? So he had backed off, and it will just be CLG able to take that away. Huhi even able to be donated to the buff, and they should be able to get back up to their own blue buff and take that as well. So a nice early pressure here from CLG. Really have done a good job in these early minutes. Want to see what they can do next.
Heading towards the bottom side now with that duo. We mentioned in Champion Select, these two working together was going to be a big indicator of how well the early game would go, and right now they have been doing everything as they need to do so far. This team up about 1,000 gold, thanks to those couple of kills that they've got under their belt, as well as the farm advantages. You can see in the top lane, 23 CS advantage for the Aatrox over the Mundo. Darshan doing a good job putting to good use the amount of help that he got early on in the game, while bottom lane stays pretty much even. And even in the jungle, as much as we've been seeing these invades from Reignover walking around with Huhi trying to make these plays happen, Lyra hasn't really been able to farm up much of an advantage in his own side.
Oh, this one could go bad. Lyra is very intelligently waiting to show until the dive starts here.
Huhi could be in some trouble, taking a lot of turret aggro. He'll surely just die here. Nope, does get himself away. Vision of Empire will land onto him, applies a little bit of damage. Not quite enough. Huhi walking out of this one just barely.
Yeah, nice response there from Lyra, waiting to show until the dive had already begun. If he walks up there, well, Huhi just walks away. Still, though, it is, a trade of summoners. It's not only the TP that has to come in from Febiven, but it is the flash use from Solo, so they're trading that for the summoners coming out here from Huhi, and thanks to the fact that he is playing Aurelion Sol, he can get right back out the lane, fly up there, and shouldn't miss too much, so still ends up being a pretty even trade, but this is the kind of defensive style that Clutch wants to play. They want their Trundle to be farming and scaling. They want their Mundo to be, getting to that later stages where he is going to get stronger, and where Febiven can start to have more wave clear, more ability to kind of answer and push back here against the Aurelion Sol.
Right, you said earlier that it's the early game, the early push especially, that's so frustrating for the Swain with the Aurelion Sol, because Swain's Death's Hand has such a high cooldown early on. Clearing the waves is pretty annoying to do, but once he gets those levels, then it's going to become much more manageable. He'll be able to respond a bit better to these situations. Huhi and Reignover again, controlling the Scuttle Crabs, moving around. Stixxay and Biofrost know that with their jungler and mid laner hanging towards that bottom side, they're okay with moving a little bit forward, getting a little aggro, seeing if they can find something.
And it is really interesting because, both teams kind of have different picks, and it could be a hook, but it is Tahm Kench.
Yep, there's the power of that Kench, denying the engage.
Still, good amount of damage down on the Stixxay, and he'll have to be a little bit more careful. But, they have different strength in different areas, right? There's kind of the early game strength where CLG is in mid and jungle. That's supposed to get them to the late game strength of the Kai'Sa and the Aatrox, right? And equally for Clutch, they have this Thresh Lucian, which is much more of early game focus that is, kind of supposed to be a point of power to allow their Trundle and their Mundo and these guys to scale up. So as it comes to the later stages, it's going to be about, whose kind of carries, whose late game carries really did get the most out of it, and who is going to be able to really make the most of those early advantages.
Lots of damage from the bottom lane of Clutch Gaming. Biofrost in some trouble, having to pop the stopwatch there. Thick Skin also going to come out. Meanwhile, fight in the mid lane, 2 versus 2. Quickly going to be 3v3. Huhi's already out of the mix, and Febiven takes the kill for himself. Darshan shows up, able to get one back. Febiven out of the demon form, trying to get himself away. Reignover going to go down next as Febby uses the power of the stopwatch to stay alive for only a moment longer. The resurrection will have to come through. Solo, I don't know how well this fight goes for if Darshan's able to find more heals. Nice stopwatch to keep himself alive. Darshan's passive is going to drop down now. Solo just needs to run him down with a couple more of these trophy tosses. Does manage to land it. See you later. Solo punches his ticket.
Well played there by Solo. The stopwatch is coming in so big everywhere. Looked like Darshan would have been able to clean this up. It is Clutch starting out the play here. The pull just barely misses. That gives Huhi the confidence to move in, but Lyra is waiting, and they burst down Huhi quite quickly. TPs both come in. Darshan is very, very strong at this point. Gets the nice knock-up, immediately knocks down Lyra. Stopwatch buys so much time here for Febiven, and despite the fact that Darshan is going to be able to knock him down, Bloodwill is procced, and then looks like Darshan should be able to win this, but the stopwatch actually makes the passive fall off. And the fact that the passive falls off means Solo can then chase in. Solo can look to kind of finish off this kill, and he is able to do it. So well done there from Clutch. It is 3 for 2 in the extended play, and now looking to pressure this Rift Herald. They've swapped top. In the meantime, may be able to just knock down this turret first here. We'll see who is actually going to get that down first.
Looks like it'll probably be CLG. They've got 3 men strong already onto the turret. They've got a larger minion wave there as well. That first turret bonus gold going their way will help to build that gold lead up a little bit further. Top side, another nice hook coming out from Hakuo. Darshan wants to keep himself alive for just a moment longer. Won't quite be able to do so. Apollo now having a dash away from who he's counterattack. Darshan still barely keeping himself alive as the tier 1 turret can say the same, but only for a moment longer. Reignover recognizing this opportunity with so many Clutch Gaming bodies in the top side, says it's time to go for Infernal. Yeah, they will be able to get the Infernal. They do get the Rift Herald also. So a lot of how well this trade works out for Clutch is dependent upon how much can you get from the Rift. If you can get a very valuable Rift, if you can knock down a turret or two, then it could be a positive play for them. But as of now, CLG comes out with first power. That is in their advantage. The Infernal is certainly in their advantage. So really, Lyra is going to have to get a lot out of that Rift Herald to kind of equalize the extended play. Lyra 0 and 2 so far on this Trundle. Does have 2 assists, so it's not like he's only been finding himself on the receiving end of the CLG punishment. But remember, he was also the one that was having a bit of a difficult time in yesterday's match against TSM. A few missed smites, getting caught out a couple of times. So we really want to see Lyra, in particular for this Clutch Gaming squad, step up and make sure that he's doing the right thing at the right time.
And part of that really was because of the pick and the pick order that they went. You know, they took a 5th pick, Skarner, and it was against a Morgana and an Anivia and like all these champions that, and you know, it's going to be tough to actually be successful against. But that's one of those situations where, well, that's still an error, whether it was his choice or the coach's choice or whatever. That's still something that they weren't able to get that much out of. And I would say he's having, I think, a more effective game here on the Trundle. And as he's scaling up, you know, he is still the same level here as the Olaf. Trundle is going to be worth a lot in these team fights. Absolutely. Being able to shred through, you know, the only true tank of this Olaf. Olaf is going to run in with his ultimate, get ulted and red smited by this Trundle, and kind of get focused down. And that can be very, very difficult then for the Olaf to find much value in team fights.
He's going to lose his resistances from using his own ult. He's going to lose resistances from Trundle's ult. He's going to lose attack damage from Trundle's bite. There's a lot of things to make this Olaf not seem so scary anymore. Shelly summoned up here in the mid lane as Clutch Gaming want to try to set up some sort of a siege onto the tier 1. Shelly will make a nearly full-powered headbutt into that, reduce it down to about 20% HP, but that will not be a turret taken for Clutch. Still tied up 1-to-1 in those objectives as Lyra clears out some vision. Everything continuing to farm up here. Level 11 on this Swain means he does have level 2 ultimate available. Always important to keep an eye on those power spikes for this champion that Febby is so well known for tearing up the team fights with.
Yeah, definitely the case. And I would have liked to see Clutch try to use the Rift Herald as a minion wave was crashing in, because then there's, I think, more opportunity for follow-up damage on the turret and potentially knocking it down. Still, getting Chunk is useful, but I would say, you know, now having seen what the Rift Herald got done, CLG definitely came out better in the earlier extended play. And 6A now on Rageblade, he has his Zerker Greaves, he has a red buff, he is at a very, very strong point, and CLG is looking to kind of flex their muscles here, threatening a dive from the side, and they want to be the ones to knock down this turret.
Stixxay's got that first item power spike. You can see the same thing can be said for Apollo on the Lucian with the Blade of the Ruined King. Sunfire Cape Ninja Tabby completed for Solo's Mundo, but if you're going up against a big tanky armor stacker, just about the best marksman you can be is Kai'Sa, considering she does so much magic-based damage with the popular build these days, Nashor's Tooth into Rabadon's Deathcap being the most popular one, so that Mundo is still going to have to be very mindful of just how much damage he's soaking.
And that's why it's kind of frustrating here when you are playing a tank and you're laning against a very difficult to deal with physical damage lane opponent. So you have to stack armor to not get slaughtered by the Aatrox, but if you only stack armor and you show up to a team fight, well, you're going to get absolutely shredded by this AP Kai'Sa as Stixxay picks up more items, as well as the Aurelion Sol. So you have to kind of go for this middle ground, which does make you more vulnerable to the Aatrox, who can build purely for that 1v1 and that kind of side lane fight.
Predator popped there by Reignover's Olaf. Wasn't really able to find much of anything with it. Hakuo also throwing out a couple death sentences. None of those really hitting true as both teams just kind of jockey for positioning here in the mid lane. The dance back and forth not resulting in anybody hitting the go button just yet.
Yeah, not just yet, but CLG is trying to spread the map. You can see that they send their solo laners out to the side lanes. They have quite a safe 3-man squad. Olaf helping to wave clear with axes. Stixxay, using that Acathian Rain to help wave clear as well. And they have Tahm Kench. When you have him in the center of the map, he can also respond very well to his side lane, with the Abyssal Voyage. So CLG wants to control minion waves on the side, have the ability for the Aurelion Sol to fly to the mid lane, help them there, and also have the ability for the Tahm Kench to shuttle himself and one other to a side lane to try to dive or put on additional pressure. And I think that's going to be a lot of what their game plan revolves around.
And earlier I commented on the CLG gold lead being 1,000 gold, 1,500 gold. It's actually closer than it's ever been throughout this game now, down to about 400. It was a greater gold difference than this at level 1. Yeah. Because of the fact that they got first blood plus assist money. So got to give credit to Clutch Gaming for making sure that they staunch that bleeding, address the fact that the early game was going poorly, make sure that they don't lose any more than they had to, and continue working towards that scaling objective that you were talking about earlier, so they can get to this late game with the power of the Swain, with the power of the Trundle, having the unkillable Mundo. Just allowing themselves that time to scale. But 17 minutes into the game, we have an Infernal Drake coming up in 45 seconds. We know Baron will be on the table here in about 2 minutes or so. So there will be neutral objectives to fight over that Clutch will have to decide the value of.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at all the stuff that kind of happened to Solo in this game in the early stages, you would expect him to be so much further behind, right? At level 1, he's forced to flash. Then he's still, I think, actually level 1, gets dove and killed, and fight's gonna break out.
Here we go, Hakuo lands a death sentence, Biofrost in the front line, already having to pop the thick skin. Lyra, ultimate keeps him healthy enough to stay alive for now, but not much more. Featherman having to get himself out of the front line as they go right into the fight. Darshan already trying to cut these guys to pieces. Featherman's out of the picture, and Clutch Gaming heads for the hills. CLG take the fight.
Darshan finds a huge Dark Flight there, jumping in on Aatrox, hitting the multi-man knock-up, and Clutch is sent scattering. They're going to get a second Infernal here, and that is really, really big, getting that 16% ADAP advantage over your opponents really does start to get huge in later stages of the game. And that's another Infernal coming up. That is 3 straight. So Clutch is really going to want to have to fight for that one.
If you get the third Infernal, hold on, we'll talk about Infernals after we take another look at this replay, because CLG were really hoping that Clutch walked up a little bit closer.
Yeah, they have vision control. They're able to move in. Clutch responds pretty quickly, but a lot of the damage is used on Biofrost, who has the thick skin. And then this is the turning moment. Darshan comes in, Clutch backs up, and look at them clumping as they're retreating. Knocks up both the carries there. Apollo gets immediately pushed out of the fight. Featherman gets cut down, and Darshan having such an insane impact in that team fight. You have to be so careful about your positioning when you are the damage dealers of this team. I mean, Apollo and Featherman are almost all of your damage, really consistent DPS in these team fights. Yes, Mundo and Trundle will still put out some, but your heavy hitters are those 2 carries, and when they both got hit, both got chunked out by Darshan, he won the team fight.
Pretty sure Apollo was so low that if one of the power waves from the Titanic Hydra would have happened to come in contact with him, he would have died right there. So absolutely no way to stay in that fight once Darshan made such a dramatic entrance. And CLG now finds themselves still sitting exactly where they want to be. They've got the lead heading into the mid game. 2 Infernals. Baron now live on the table, so if they can find themselves a big fight win, we've seen teams take Baron very early these days. With the state of Baron and how strong it is to take early on, it's not nearly as much as it used to be. You get a big team fight win, you can get a big team fight reward.
It's definitely a possibility, especially if Darshan is working towards his Rageblade, as I expect he is. That's double Rageblade champions who can absolutely shred through the Baron very, very quickly. And Stixxay has been quietly farming away, just has the 1 assist to his name, but he is a guy who can do a lot of the heavy lifting in the late game on this Kai'Sa. So if they can get him to 2-3 items, he certainly can pick up a lot of the slack as the Aurelion Sol and the Olaf kind of start to fall off.
And we've seen, whether it's in the Super Kai'Sa strategy or in just having Kai'Sa in general, we've seen this champion carry games a lot already in summer 2018, but right now we're seeing her get shot to pieces. A little bit more damage coming out, tries to flash away, but not quite today. Apollo takes him out.
And that is just messy stuff from CLG. The team splits up. Tahm Kench is not with Stixxay. Stixxay tanks so much of the culling before actually flashing away. Does not even use Killer Instinct. I mean, if you're getting shot like that, you can just Killer Instinct to the same side that you're already in for the shield and try to run away without flashing, or you need to early flash. Instead, He holds onto the ultimate, tries to hold onto the flash, ends up expending it and dying anyway. So here it is. This looks good from CLG. They're moving in together, but then the rest of the team is going one way. He's going the other. And at this point, you need to either immediately flash out or use the killer instinct or something. And he didn't actually have the plasma on him, so he wouldn't have been able to do it. So it would have had to be that early flash.
He plasma tried to hit his opponent,
Yeah.
instead only got the caster minion, so no opportunity to use the ultimate there. Ends up costing Stixxay his life. And with that extra bit of stalling added into the game, Clutch Gaming are happy to say, all right, that's fine. Another couple of minutes that CLG are not getting ahead, another couple minutes for us to scale, and Apollo, we saw at the beginning of the day on the countdown, this is the guy who's had 5 more kills than anybody else, any other individual player in the North American LCS coming into day 2 of week 2. And when you're able to make the plays like that, recognize, hey, I can kill this guy right now, that's what gets you there.
Certainly the case. I mean, he had 10 kills yesterday. He was an absolute monster for Clutch. Him and Pepin really getting a lot of the heavy lifting done. He knocks down the turret. He gets a second kill. He's sitting on 2 items. Lucian definitely had a very strong point right now in the game. And you know, Darshan is kind of trying to farm up and wait for that Rage Blade or potentially a Blade of the Rune King to come in for him. But until then, you know, the Mundo is at a stronger point, and it's Clutch that is posturing around here by the Baron. There's also the potential, you know, CLG is going to really want this third Infernal. There's potential of a trade if they go for that.
Nice force out of the Ragnarok there. The Pillar makes sure that he has to use it just to get away. Reignover in no condition to fight any longer, just wants to get himself away from this one and get healed up. Very nice move there from Clutch Gaming, always looking to punish whenever they can.
Yeah, and the Zeke's now completed for the Trundle, so he's going to have that online. You just drop the Pillar, drop the ult, he gets shredded so quick.
Oh, another nice death sentence. Flash ain't gonna do it today. Featherton grabs the kill.
Yeah, they could go straight to Baron now. That's who he down. They're immediately TPing solo over here. They will go for the Baron, and they are trying to get so much off of that pick. Remember, Reignover has no ultimate, so it's so hard for him to be useful in this fight. And is CLG just going to give it up? It's TP coming in, but we'll see if it's too little too late.
No breaks on the hype train today. Clutch Gaming want to go all the way off that pick onto the mid laner. Baron down to 1/3. Darshan, the hero of the last team fight in the enemy jungle, now looking to go in, potentially be that hero here again. Baron at 3K, still looking to make the fight, still able to go in, fighting the knockup. 1-2, Darshan going to be taken low. Reignover's in the pit now as well. Baron still only at about 2K. Darshan's going to go down, and Solo's on a killing spree. They have to take Reignover out if they want to make this a 100%.
Reignover
again, but Reignover gets the Baron, and that could potentially save this situation for CLG as Biofrost goes over the wall. And all right, he goes over the wall, but Stixxay grabs the kill on the Lyra, and Biofrost comes right back in. He goes down. Apollo's on a killing spree as Solo's now going to be thrown to the wolves, so Apollo can try to escape. He'll look to TP out, and he does.
Oh, that was so close. One auto, and he would have gone down as well, but CLG getting so much out of that. Biofrost getting pretty hypey, flashing over. He's like, whoa, wait.
It's like, hold on a second.
Is this a prank, bro? All right, here it is one more time. It is the 4v5, and a lot of split focus in this fight. You know, Clutch isn't sure. Do we finish the Baron off? What do we do here? Where do we go? Stixxay gets largely ignored, and Darshan is able to buy so much time getting into the middle of the fight here. Has the ultimate ready, goes straight in, flash in, knock up, getting so much damage down. Reignover comes over, and Stixxay is being ignored through almost all of that. He's able to use the Killer Instinct, kiting back, doing a very good job, and now they've bought enough time that they're able to re-enter the pit. The smite came down early, it looked like there from the Trundle, and Reignover is able to secure it. Stixxay is still full health. Biofrost goes over the wall, but is able to kind of group back up with Buhi and use the Abyssal Voyage to catch back up, cleaning up a couple more kills, and CLG end up coming out so far ahead off of this.
In Clutch Gaming's game yesterday against TSM, it was Lyra's mistimed smites
God, that damage.
that made it look like TSM were going to have an avenue back into the game. And now against CLG, again, that weakness is shown. Lyra's inability to secure these big neutral objectives is proving to be quite a problem for Clutch Gaming.
And it can be a mental block. It's one of those things that every jungler knows this. The more smites you miss, the more nervous you get about the next smite,
Yeah.
right? You lost the Scuttle
breaks
Crab
your
fight.
confidence.
You lost that fight around the red buff. Well, now you're worried, are you going to lose the Baron? Like, that's a big deal. And yesterday it was a problem for Lyra. They came out on top, but this one is looking pretty rough with a triple Infernal advantage, plus the Baron buff. Kai'Sa getting to a very, very strong point. This could be a tough one for Clutch to really stabilize in and come back in, because even if the gold is close, the Infernals give such a tremendous advantage. It's thousands and thousands of gold worth of extra stats going their way.
And let's not forget, this is Kai'Sa. She uses AD and AP, so you're essentially getting double the Infernals. It's like 6 of them.
That's a lot of Infernals.
That's quite a few Infernals, more than you'd normally ever see in a game of League of Legends, as CLG will take down this bottom lane tier 2 turret, brings their turret count up to 4, their gold lead up to about 5K, and they've still got 30 seconds or so of Baron remaining. Clutch Gaming need to find some kind of a pick here. Death Sentence flies out, doesn't really find anyone. Never Move lands its way onto Biofrost, but Tahm Kench isn't the guy you're looking for.
Yeah, you can see again, this is the strategy. Solo laners go out to the side lanes. Hui's going to get top lane pushing. Darshan shoving out bottom lane on the Aatrox, and you're going to have this safe 3-man squad pressuring up mid. They want the waves to have to be responded to here from Clutch. And for now, CLG will push out those waves, will reset as the Baron is expiring. Didn't get too much from that, as, you know, a lot of players were dead kind of as the Baron was going down and so on and so forth, but still, increasing the gold lead, scaling up, working towards these next items, and the death cap completion for Stixxay is so big, amplifying all of that AP, you know, in combination with the Rage Blade, the Nashers. This is really where your passive and it starts to do such hilarious amounts of damage. Like, the execute is really shocking on that 5th stack of plasma at this point.
Also looking at, you've got the 2 big items for the Aatrox. We've seen Darshan just have no fear on this champion so far, diving in when he needs to dive in. Black Cleaver done on Reignover's Olaf means just more general fighting stats, as well as that Aurelion Soul for Huhi, Morellonomicon, Rod of Ages, Rylai's Crystal Scepter, plenty of power behind him as well. Yeah, and I've really got to point out that I'm very pleased that CLG is not neglecting, you know, the kind of due diligence with the healing debuffs. We saw an early Executioners here from Darshan, now the Morellos from Huhi. There's such a tremendous amount of healing coming out from this team. All the lifesteal from Apollo. Mundo has an incredible amount of regen and healing. So the Trundle ultimate, as well as Swing, right? A healing debuff is a must versus this team. They're making sure they'll always have it, which is just so smart, and these items are so incredibly efficient. Culling comes out there. Biofrost takes the brunt of the damage. He'll heal a little bit of it up with the thick skin, getting himself back up to just shy of half HP. Clutch Gaming now firmly on their back foot. You could tell that earlier this game was a bit of back and forth with who's trying to make the play and who's responding, but ever since the Baron fiasco, it's been CLG that have been calling the shots, and Clutch that are just trying to keep their heads above water, especially with this massive Kai'Sa that you were talking about. You don't play the fight right one more time against a Kai'Sa that's got this much farm, that has this much power in the itemization, you're probably just done. Yeah, and it becomes very tough because essentially Clutch is playing a lot of these champions that are kind of like drain tanky type regen champions, right? And there's a certain threshold where if you cannot deal enough DPS, Mundo becomes invincible and he runs through your team. Same can be said with Trundle, same can be said with Swain. But when you have triple Infernal, when you have a gold advantage, when you have multiple forms of healing debuffs in items as well as double ignite, you'll always have that, and that damage threshold is so easy to hit. Sean now going for that 1 versus 1 against Solo. Isn't even going to need the 1 versus 1 for long. He's got buddies coming in to help him just to make sure the redemption will not do enough to keep Solo alive. And with that kill, that means 40 seconds until the Clutch Gaming squad is 5 men strong again. 1 minute until Baron spawns for CLG to set things up. Yeah, it looks like CLG just wants full Baron vision control. You can see all the wards that they have gotten down around the blue side of Clutch. There's a tremendous amount of vision in this area. They really want to kind of secure this and make it very difficult for Clutch to even come near to try to check it out. And as long as you're the ones getting the engage, as long as you are the ones choosing the fight from this position as CLG, you are certainly going to come out on top. All right, let's press rewind for a second, Azale, and go back to when you said earlier you wanted to see more later game consistency from CLG. So far, it's been working out pretty well for them. Darshan with the flash away to get himself out. Blasttone's also right there to make sure that that escape gets all the way out of town. And this CLG squad seems to be playing the game pretty close to the vest right now, not over-risking anything. Yeah, I mean, I think they are playing pretty well, but you have to remember that Baron was you know, pretty coin flippy, right? It's one of those situations where Clutch was in a 5v4. CLG not only gets the kills, but they get that Baron steal. Had they not gotten that, the game would look very, very different.
And CLG still needs to play it safe, needs to play it consistent. They have side lane control with these champions, and I want to see them maintain vision control, get the side lanes working in their favor, and then go for this Baron and look to close out the game. You have to kind of check all the boxes before you do this, and Clutch has really fought back and got a lot of vision in the area. So we're going to see Darshan going down to bot. They're trying to draw Solo down to the bottom and either get a 1v1 kill or draw multiple members down so that CLG can get control of the mid lane area, get vision, and work towards getting that Baron.
Worth pointing out that Apollo also has the Essence Reaver completed now on Lucian, which is the item that can turn him into an absolute monster if he can get off all those back-to-back Spellslinger casts. We'll have to see how that works out in the next team fight. As bottom side, it's the inhibitor turret down now on the side of Clutch Gaming. Darshan making sure of that one, constantly providing this split push threat, trying to buy time for the rest of the squad to maybe set up enough around Baron.
They've got to back off here because it's both soul laners bot side. Biofrost's going to get caught.
Tries to flash out. It's going to be the flash death sentence follow-up to make sure Clutch Gaming's able to find the pick.
CLG's trying to end the game.
Side, CLG wants to end this right here, right now. They've already got Darshan down there. They're using 2 other TPs to make sure they get to the Nexus turrets in time. They've already found one. Darshan, Huhi, and Stixxay continuing to push. They're up against Apollo and Solo here. Stixxay on the front line, going to be taking a little bit of damage. Darshan still trying to go in. Going to probably be taken down, and Apollo goes unstoppable before the Bloodwell is able to be procced as Lyra grabs a kill onto Reignover in the meantime. Huhi trying to get himself out of this base. You better move your dragon butt, boy. Stuck up against the wall.
Here now, though.
Over it, but Hakuo is right there with the death sentence. Come on over, buddy, and collect your gold. JK, I'm going to take it myself. Hakuo grabs that kill. And it looks like Stixxay will be the one man hobbling away from this one. He wants to camp into the brush. Say, hey, Hakuo, what's going on, buddy? Void Seeker.
There was a Thresh there, I swear, and
not no more.
Hakuo just gets taken off the map, but still it's CLG, trying to go for these really clever plays. Do they need to try to go for a base race when you have Triple Infernal, when you had full map control? They go for the big play. Clutch responds appropriately. It will be a Clutch Gaming Baron, and Clutch just gonna buy themselves more time.
Okay, if that's still Baron, they're gonna have a problem.
If Lyra loses the Baron
to the lick,
Tongue Lash, that's where you just hit the FF. And that's where you walk off stage.
GG go next.
Yeah, exactly. GG go next. Actually, BG go next. But anyway, here it is one more time. CLG decides to make the call, fully commit to this. Maybe not taking into consideration the fact that Apollo still had his TP, but Apollo was very quick on the draw, got back to base. Solo does a good job tanking this up, and nice flash there from Apollo. Avoiding that Dark Flight, not allowing Darshan to get his passive stacked up for the Bloodwell respawn, which makes them lose that fight. Huhi gets picked off on the way out, and means Clutch has the Baron and another lease on life in this game. But CLG doesn't need to go for all these crazy risky plays. They still have Triple Infernal. They still have 4 dragons to none. They're still at 5,000 gold. You can play a more standard style and try to control the map in the side lanes, but we'll see if they're going to go for this, because this really has been where they've kind of struggled to cleanly close out a lot of the games.
Well, with Baron under the belts of Clutch Gaming for another 2.5 minutes, that's 2.5 minutes of CLG not really wanting to go too aggro in the face of this buffed up opposition. So just a little bit of extra breathing room for Clutch. Remember, they did lose their bottom lane inhib. They did lose 1 Nexus turret. So any more big losses could just mean the game for this team. They have to be extra careful. You can see Solo working on that Thorn Mail next in the inventory, or at least making sure he has the Bramble Vest just to deal with Solo better in the 1 versus 1. He can't just keep bleeding out that split push game as Clutch Gaming pushes up the mid lane onto the tier 2. CLG will not defend.
Yeah, you got to be careful now, though, because it is a Baron buff. And yeah, CLG, if they can get down to the other side of the map, they can win the game. But Clutch is just going to walk 5 as this kind of meatball comp with all of the Baron buff support there. You can push very heavily into the base. And likewise, if CLG loses a fight here with the Baron buff there, that's the end of the game for them.
We're on a nice edge, Azael. Either side could still walk away from this when it comes down to execution. It comes down to who plays it right. Void Seeker finds its way onto Solo, but considering he's got the Negatron Cloak as well as the full Spirit Visage, doesn't really hurt him that much. Warmog's also up on this guy, so I like that pick. I like the fact that you've got somebody who can just absorb all the Void Seekers, considering they're going to fly out every 4 seconds if he's hitting them.
Yep.
And it's back to minion duty.
It's also pretty good in the 1v1 if you're in a side lane against the Aatrox, because basically the idea is Aatrox gets his passive stacked, he jumps on you, you fight, you back off, and as his passive falls, it's harder for him to kind of continue that fight. Your Warmog's can heal you back up, and maybe you can look to re-engage or at least kind of stay stable in that 1v1.
if nothing else, you deadlock, right? He'll heal back up off of the next minion wave. You heal up by standing there. And everybody just stays locked in this eternal limbo of split push 1v1. Featherman clears out the wave, and somehow that turret with 1 HP, literally,
more than
1
zero.
health, it's enough to keep it standing. It's shaking, the bricks are falling off. I don't even know how it's still there, but it is. Apollo gets hit by the Void Seeker, takes a decent chunk of damage, and gets himself out. Reynor will collect the Scuttle Crab around Baron, provide a little bit of extra control over that river. As Darshan continues to push up, he's like, all right, minions, you can do it.
Rest in peace.
Brave Soul. It stood for so long.
Turret did its best. That's all you can ask for.
Yep, definitely a team player there. Fought to the very bitter end, and now with that gone, the only turrets left standing in the Clutch Gaming base are those, well, in the base. They've got 2 left for the inhibitors. They've got 1 left for the Nexus.
That's
We've got
2 Void Seekers, and Lyra's at half HP going back to base.
And that's your Trundle. That's not your 8
Wait,
carrier.
he hit him again!
Okay, well, 3 of them. Takes him down to 1/4.
Yeah.
I'll leave you guys to do the math and figure out what happens if a 4th one hits him before he heals up.
That feels so bad, too, because it's so far away. Like, you can't even see this guy on your screen, and he's chunking you for so much health. And this is not always a stage of the game that you really get to see Kai'Sa in, but you're seeing Stixxay. You know, he has 30% CDR in his build, and if you can grab him a blue buff, he's sitting out 40%. You can spam out these Void Seekers nonstop, and you have enough AP in this build that every time you hit it, you have that evolved W, so it gives you half the cooldown back, which basically puts your Void Seeker, you know, at like 4.5 or so second cooldown. So it's spammable, it's incredibly high damage, and you kind of become like a super Ezreal almost in the later stages of the game, as long as you're being accurate.
The thing is, too, this Kai'Sa now with Zhonya's Hourglass completed means trying to dive onto her, trying to secure a pick onto her. You either have to have a perfect CC chain with Thresh, or you're just not going to get it because of the fact that he can drop aggro by 2.5 seconds with the stasis and create that much more of a difficult situation for Clutch to try to win out in. Still a 4,000 gold difference between the teams, though. Elder Drake live in 90 seconds. Remember, if CLG gets that, they have all 4 Elemental Drakes so far, 3 of those being Infernal. This team's power goes through the roof with that objective secured.
Yeah, it really does. And another thing that I always kind of find funny about Kai'Sa is all the AP and AD scaling that is actually on the ultimate means that her ultimate at this point in the game is a shield for 1,000. So unless you actually are killing this guy off right off the bat, Stixxay is going to pop the ultimate. He's going to have the killer instinct. That is going to be a massive shield. He has Knight's Vow. He has this Tahm Kench to protect him as well. You know, it can be very, very tough to actually take him down. Even if you get that CC and he's only low, Killer Instinct can come out and give him enough time to really heal back up quite a lot.
Void Seeker almost instant to give that poor little minion. He never got to see the glorious fields of battle until now. And then the cannon minion just one-shots him as soon as he gets there. That's a hard life to live. Still a 13-11 game. The kills very close between these two teams, just blow for blow throughout the entirety of this game. 39 minutes in, almost up to that 40-minute point. Both big buffs going to be live in under 60 seconds. Clutch Gaming cannot afford to give away that Elder. And honestly, if they try to go for the Baron, CLG can let them take it and take Elder instead and then just force a fight after. That's always a possibility when you have this many Drakes as an advantage. We'll just have to see how the teams decide to play that one out. There's a lot of different ways you could approach this.
Oh, Aatrox is flanking.
Clutch Gaming could be in a really bad spot here. Darshan on the front line, going to be taken very low. Does go into Resurrection just in time. Featherman gets himself away. Solo coming in from behind. Death Sentence goes out, able to pull some in, but Featherman the first one down. Clutch Gaming having to run away now. The redemption comes through. Not going to find a lot just yet. Solo on the front line. CLG does win the fight, and with that win, Elder Drake is alive.
Oh, the Void Seeker? Nope. Yeah, and that is the power of Aatrox in this late game stage. He has GA. He had his passive. He's on his 3rd life. They killed him twice in the fight, and no one died on the side of CLG. So it does end up being just the 1 for 0, but the Elder is so incredibly important. And when you get that first, it means almost an uncontestable Baron. It's so hard now to actually get over there and fight for this. I mean, the Kai'Sa has 1,040 AP. That's actually insane. That's so much damage going to be coming out of this guy.
Seems good. CLG now with a triple Infernal Elder Drake buff plus Baron plus a nearly 10,000 gold lead has got to be in the best possible position to end this game. Let's see how they got there with this fight.
Here this is again. Darshan knows he's sitting on 3 lives, knows he can go aggressive, is going to look for it, pops the ulti, jumping in on Febiven. Now, Clutch plays this fight pretty well. Had that GA not been there, he would have actually died before he got his passive stack. But Huhi on the side, Voice of Light, the orbs connecting on so many members. Huhi almost 100 and zeros Apollo with this great positioning, really showing his mastery, making it work on the Aurelion Sol in the late game. He's such an incredible player on the champion, and with the Baron buff added in, it's even more AP into the equation. These guys are getting ridiculously strong. Clutch's only hope really now is delay, delay, delay. You need these buffs to expire because there is no world in which you win an even fight unless CLG is hands off keyboard.
This is the end of Lord of the Rings 2. It's time for Clutch Gaming to dig deep and defend and pull off some kind of a miracle. They are outnumbered and outgunned in terms of resources. Let's see how well they can do up against a Void Seeker that can hit Hakuo for half his HP. That one would have killed him.
Stixxay basically has all the Infinity Stones at this point.
Snap.
Snap of fingers. Has the Void Staff here too. He is looking monstrous. All the builds are being complete.
Let's not forget the true damage burn. That'll take Featherman down to about half HP.
Well,
Now down to nothing. Has to pop the Hourglass just to try to stay alive. Won't be able to do so. Reignover makes sure he gets the kill on that one. Darshan, meanwhile, pushing solo out here in the bottom lane. Darshan continuing that push right now, not afraid of anything. 2 dead, 3 dead on the side of Clutch. And that is all there is to it, Azael. That buff was just too much. The Nexus goes down, and CLG will find their win.
CLG rewarded for all their work throughout the games, collecting the Infernals. 4 dragons, controlling the map, finally being able to cash in on all that work. But it did take them 42 minutes in a game that they had first blood at level 1, in a game that they were very far ahead in the early stages, and there were still some of those, shakiness, kind of signs of weakness in the mid game and in the late game, and things that they can still kind of walk away and try to work on.
They have things to still work on, but they have to feel good about finding the win here. Remember that Clutch Gaming is not a team to be taken lightly. This is a team that already took down TSM yesterday. This is a team that has shown that they are also a force to be reckoned with. So being able to take down a team of that caliber has to feel good for these guys. Put them in a good spot now. They now have an even record with Clutch. Both teams sitting on 2-2 around the middle of the pack. And for Clutch, you've got to start evaluating these mid-game plays around big neutral objectives. It's already like you said, if that Baron play doesn't go the way it does, if that doesn't get stolen, we could have been looking at a vastly different game.
Yeah, you really could have. But you have to give so much credit, I really feel, to Huhi. He was so insanely good on the Aurelion Sol this game for CLG from start to finish. This guy really was a monster, and I'm constantly impressed, with his Aurelion Sol play. We may be seeing it back on the ban table once again. Every once in a while, sneaks through. He plays it. Everyone's like, "Oh, yeah, you can't let him play that."
Sometimes you forget, and you just need a little bit of a reminder. And this game, I think, will serve as a staunch reminder to anybody going up against CLG that Aurelion Sol is always a possibility, especially when compared to somebody like Reignover, who's good on a champion like Olaf. You let those two work together and synergize, they tore up the early game.
Yeah, I mean, they were everywhere. Huhi was roaming all across the map, controlling his lane, involved in all of the early kills, the dive on a solo, the first blood, the multiple blue buff takes, even in those late game team fights where oftentimes people really struggle on Aurelion Sol, they have a lot of difficulty finding successful fights. Huhi was still a monster. I mean, that one fight which kind of led to the Elder Dragon and to all these additional objectives was really won by Huhi on this Aurelion Sol, kind of coming over the wall at the Raptor Pit, finding so much damage onto Apollo and completely pushing him out of the fight.
And Huhi's not just the guy who says, okay, I'm going to be the carry, I'm going to be the superhero here. He enables the team so well as well. It's that extra attention that he and Reignover were paying to topside that got Darshan where he needed to be for the entirety of that game as well. But to hear more about the win, let's go ahead and send things down to Avli and CLG's Void Seeker in the bot lane.
Thanks, guys. Stixxay, congratulations on that victory and popping off on Kai'Sa. What is your relationship with that champion? Because, oh my gosh, you were almost one-shotting people at the end of the game.
Yeah, I think Kai'Sa is kind of a pick, North America at least, where it kind of came up out of nowhere, and all of a sudden people are, starting to pick Kai'Sa like super early in the draft. So I think she's just really strong, and that game we had, 3 Infernals, Elder, Baron and stuff, so I was just really strong.
And we've mainly seen you on traditional marksmen like Ezreal and Varus, and now Kai'Sa. What do you think about the meta so far?
I think the meta is really fun. I kind of agree with a lot of the other pros that the gold funneling strat is definitely the most unfun thing, but in terms of mages and bruiser bot, I think it's actually really fun. And I would like to also say that we do play those champs. We just haven't had a chance to play it on, or play it on stage yet, so.
And kind of speaking to that, as of last split, people were kind of curious in what CLG's play style or how you guys were finding your identity. So what would you say is CLG's identity and how are you finding it?
I think CLG's identity is definitely just like strong mid jungle and playing kind of calculated and I guess helping our teammates. So it's kind of just like, if we have pressure in one lane, shift it to another lane instead of trying to only snowball through that one lane. So I think it's just a lot of teamwork.
And how about your own personal play style?
Lane Kingdom.
Lane Kingdom?
Yeah.
Well, congratulations again on your win. And for more of the game, let's hear from the desk.
Thank you very much, Avali. A big victory for CLG in a very messy game against Clutch here. Both teams moving to 2-2 at the end of week 2. What are our thoughts here? Because it was so back and forth, and it did at so many times come down to mistakes from either side.
It felt like either team should have won this game at different points, depending on when you snapshotted it.
Right.
Like this was like, oh my God, level 1 first blood. Didn't really get it back off, but then Clutch Gaming wins a nice fight in the river that ends up being a 3-for-2 in their favor, and it feels like they're starting to claw their way back in the game. And they find some pickoffs, and it starts to feel like it's coming back in the favor of Clutch Gaming.
Yeah, Solo made a nice outplay here, but this Baron was a little bit of a mess.
Febby!
Yeah, one thing to point out is Febiban actually had a really bad game. That was just one of the fights where he didn't get his zonies or stopwatch off and didn't detonate his ultimate. Even though he managed to do a lot of damage, it's just he was in a situation where I think he could have done a lot more. And then it's just the icing on the cake. 2 Ws in a row, land from Stixxay, kill him as he's trying to take the Lantern. And even if those Ws don't hit, it was a basically 4.5x Infernal Elder Drake team with Baron that was pushing down, and the damage had been done.
Yeah, it was a game, I think, it's hard to say who would have been better in the late game without those Infernal Dragons, but for CLG with Kai'Sa and triple Infernal, it's definitely them. And then that one Baron situation, there are a lot of different ways that could have gone. Could they have burned it down right away? Could they have turned off and just tried to kill Stixxay because it felt like they had plenty of damage? Those kinds of decisions that they could have made, they ended up doing none of them, and Lyra loses yet another Smite battle.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the gold was in favor of CLG for the entirety of the game, and as you mentioned, they did pick up those 3 Infernals, and so, to put it nicely, they at least were rewarded for the work that they had done around the neutral objectives for the large part of the game, ultimately with the victory, but for both teams, I can't imagine they're walking away from it. Even CLG in the win saying, whew, times are good here for us moving out of week 2 and towards week 3.
Here's the thing. They are not happy probably about the way they played and how they had triple Infernal and had a hard time closing it out. But they're 1 game out of first, Dash.
That's very true.
There's so many teams at 2-2. There's so many teams at 3-1. There's no one that's going to be at 0-4. So everyone...
you know who is going to be at 0-4?
I am right now.
Yeah, you
actually.
guys.
I have one.
Sorry, you have one.
Find the coin.
But Jad is right now.
I'm FlyQuest, baby.
Everyone can just take a big, deep breath and I think reset before week 3 because everyone's just learned and no one has gotten all the wins. No one's taken all the losses. It's wide open.
Well, you know what? Take a deep breath because we got a very exciting game 5 to finish this out here. We got one more to wrap up week 2. It's Echo Fox and Golden Guardians, who we're going to slug it out after the break. Don't touch that browser.
Echo Fox.
Walk into the brush, could be in some trouble here. The stars come out, the damage comes down, and Lyra goes home in a body bag. Coming out of the demon form, trying to get himself away. Reignover gonna go down next as Febby uses the power of the stopwatch to stay alive for only a moment longer.
Good job. I think that's worth. Maybe I can kill this guy. Should I try?
Yes.
You can do it, bro. Yes, good job. Don't push.
Baron's still only at about 2k. Darshan's gonna go down, and Solo's on a killing spree. They have to take Reignover out if they want to make this a 100%. But Reignover gets the Baron and try to stay alive. Won't be able to do so. Reignover makes sure he gets the kill on that one. Darshan, meanwhile, pushing Solo out here in the bottom lane. Darshan continuing that push right now, not afraid of anything. 2 dead, 3 dead on the side of Clutch.
The sub-above difference is substantial. After all, the Giant got its name for a reason. It ain't little. Jersey Mike's. Be a sub above.
Hello and welcome back for our final game of the day, Echo Fox versus Golden Guardians. Talking about these two squads, I think if you were to look at it through the lens of the spring split, it'd be a very lopsided matchup. Probably a lot of people not too interested in the idea that Golden Guardians could upset Echo Fox. Day 4, though, of the summer split, completely different story, as these two teams are tied up at 2-1, and Golden Guardians' wins have been been made in some impressive fashions.
Yeah, Team Liquid, Cloud9, 2 of their victories, very impressive, and their last one in particular, falling closer into the pattern that is Echo Fox with really crazy strategies as well as role swapping going on.
Yeah, I can see this Golden Guardians team. You can see from left to right, everyone has played a lot better. Lorlo, in particular, has had good performances. 8-0 game on Aatrox, the 1-0 game on Ornn. And one thing I want to point out about Echo Fox is they've employed a support substitute for one of their games, and they've role swapped a lot. But person on champion, they've had 15 uniques across all of these things. They've
no
played
player
Aurelia
has
twice,
played the same champion
but
twice.
it's a different player on Aurelia. They've done Shen twice, but it's a different support on Shen. And they're the most refreshing team, I feel like, every day of LCS.
So it furthers the question of how do you attack a team like Echo Fox in the draft? Because it's one thing to say that the meta supports champions going in any role, any position, any player's hands. It's another when a team actually showcases that they're willing to do it.
It makes it so that you have to focus a lot more on what your team wants to do. And we've already heard a lot of people saying that's the general plan in the meta anyways, because there's so much available. And Echo Fox is like if you distilled the meta down into its essence, that's like Echo Fox. They are the purest form of craziness in the meta. And so when you're playing against that, figure out what's going to work really well for your team. That comp that Golden Guardians made probably works against a lot of teams because you have good late game insurance policies, 2 damage types, and 3 tanks. Yeah, let me run that against most team comps in the world.
Right, so while it's hard to pinpoint for Echo Fox what they might be willing to try or pull out here on the day, you're saying that for Golden Guardians, they have to some degree found a method or a system that works and to kind of stick to their guns there as opposed to try and outthink their opponent in the draft phase.
Yeah, definitely should be a marksman player, in my opinion. It has been what everyone seems to be settling on, aside from Echo Fox and a few other teams. He played the Kai'Sa in the mid lane. You're still going to get a marksman in a composition that can be successful and definitely is very good at that. I think the trick will be getting Mickey on the right champion, because Mickey's games on Lulu didn't look that hot, but his game on Yasuo actually looked pretty solid. And it's just about finding the right comfort, I think, for Golden Guardians.
All right, well, of course, Golden Guardians' first win in spring came week 4, day 2. They've already amounted 2 wins so far here in Summer Split. With that, the teams are entering Champion Select, so it's time to toss it out to the Battle Arena for the call.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Let's see how these two go at it here in this final game of week 2. Both sitting on 2-1. Somebody gets to ascend to the plateau of 3-1. Somebody gets to hang out in 2-2 town. It's not that bad of a place to live. It's all right.
It's all right, you know.
Yeah.
It's pretty decent, but it'd be a lot nicer being up at 3-1. And Golden Guardians, for the first time in franchise history, are above 500. They would certainly love to stay with this winning record and kind of continue that success.
And not just a winning record, but a winning record where the 3 teams you knock out back to back to back would be Liquid, Cloud9, and Echo Fox. That's the way you make a statement in the first couple of weeks, but they will have to win this game to make that statement in truth. Let's take a look at the bans. For Echo Fox, it's Shen, Tahm Kench, and Zoe. Golden Guardians removing Nocturne, Irelia, and Taliyah from the pool.
Yeah, very, very interesting to see so much focus on those kind of support bans, perhaps trying to take away a lot of the tank supports that Matt may want to play. He did play Alistar as well as Rakan so far, so it certainly is going to have other options. But if you want to go for the Braum, if you want to go for something maybe more pick reliant and split push and these sorts of styles, then banning away Shen support, banning away Tahm Kench support, I think can be a pretty strong option.
And remember that Echo Fox is all over the place with their lane assignments in their games so far. Huni has yet to go top lane, and with a lock-in like Braum, you enable a lot of potential strategies with a super champion or with a lane swap or something else. So I'm really going to be keeping my eyes on how the rest of their side of the draft in particular goes as Golden Guardians pick up one of those champions that can go Super Saiyan mode in the Kai'Sa.
Exactly. You take away that potential funnel from that Kai'Sa. We did see Super Lucian earlier today. I have seen things like, well, obviously we saw the Aurelia before, but I've seen Yasuo, I've seen Graves, I've seen a lot of different strategies around that. But Braum first pick is also just a really good support. So it can be a completely normal draft that they are going to be looking for. And I think so far it does make a lot of sense. On the side of Golden Guardians, pick away the Kai'Sa, grab Swain. Swain, could be going bot potentially. It could be, doing another role swap, and you have the Super Kai'Sa again. We saw yesterday Mickey played Yasuo bot, and it was definitely on, mid kind of funneled Kai'Sa. This is looking like it is potentially a bot lane Yasuo, because otherwise, blind pick Yasuo doesn't make that much sense unless you're going to try to just move this around and answer the Swain, because it can be a pretty good matchup into Swain. And if you're saying, I'll just put Yasuo wherever Swain is, then that's something that Echo Fox is capable of doing and could get you a pretty good matchup.
I mean, they've already shown that kind of fluidity and flexibility in their drafts before, so definitely going to keep both those options online as something that could be the outcome here. Graves also locked in on the side of Echo Fox. Pretty certain that one's going into the jungle. It's Echo Fox, so I'm not putting my cards on the table saying 100%.
Support Graves.
But we're going to go ahead and say most likely putting that one there in the jungle. Golden Guardians picking up the Xin Zhao for themselves. That's going in the jungle.
It could still be a funnel, though, right? You're always going to be wondering, what is Echo Fox doing? If you're Golden Guardians, you have to be thinking, okay, well, what is most likely? And then what is the next most likely? What is after that? Because it could very easily be, oh yeah, it's Braum support, it's going to be Yasuo mid or top, and you're going to have Graves jungle. But it could also be Braum mid funneling a Graves with a Yasuo bot. You draft something like an Alistar to set him up even better, and you look for those sorts of strategies. We'll see if Golden Guardians wants to ban out Alistar, if they are actually perhaps worried about that, or maybe even just take it away for themselves, because anytime you see a Yasuo, you are looking for a lot of setup for that ultimate. And yes, Braum does have some setup with the ultimate himself, but isn't the strongest. The Mundo ban also, to me, does say, hey, they think Altec might be playing top, because that is the top laner that Altec did play earlier and did kind of facilitate moving Huni to bot.
When your team is already 2 magic damage heavy champions plus Xin Zhao, Mundo's really good against that.
Yeah.
So banning away the Mundo, I can't fault them for that. When you can see the Golden Guardians were also thinking about the Alistar themselves now as we get into these last couple of picks. They're juggling around with a few different supports, the theme of which seems to be engage, and they settle on Rakan.
Yeah, gonna go with Rakan. That does mean there's potential for Fung to pick up that Alistar if they wanted to go Alistar Yasuo bottom, do a funnel. But again, it could just be a Braum bottom, and this really is, I think, the hardest team to draft against in the league, because Echo Fox could be doing anything. Their players could be swapping roles, their players could be swapping champions, they can be doing so much different crazy stuff.
And this doesn't tell us anything.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Could be Vladimir bot, could be mid, could even be top. You really still don't know. And even with their last pick, you don't always really get a lot of answers. You're going to know more. Okay, so if it is Galio, I'm expecting it to be Galio mid. I am expecting it to be, Braum support. And then it's probably a Yasuo top for Huni. But you could flex, right? You could go Vladimir AD carry. You could go Yasuo in kind of bot lane role. So there is still a lot of potential to flex around, and it makes it so hard for Golden Guardians, because how do you counterpick? Great, you have your last pick for Lorlo, but you could be going up against the Vladimir or the Yasuo. So Camille makes quite a bit of sense. I think it is just a really strong champion in the meta, one of the highest presence in pro play, for good reason, because it has a lot of really strong laning, does have good scaling. You can team fight pretty well with Hextech Ultimatum, so we will see where everything is going to go. I'm thinking it is Vladimir in the bottom lane for Altec, and then Huni going to play the Yasuo into the Camille, and that would be a very explosive matchup.
This will also be the first time in Summer Split that Huni has played top.
He's got to check the box. He's got to play it at least once.
You got to get it in there. You got to make sure that you're playing each role at some point throughout the split. He's like, all right, we'll just get this boring stuff out of the way early. That way we have 7 more weeks of fun.
I mean, that would basically put him at 4, right? Because he essentially played the Aurelia mid funnel. Well, it depends if you want to qualify that as a mid or a jungle.
I already argued with Kobe about this for 15 minutes earlier. We can't get into this one.
Well, it's one or the other, whatever.
Okay, it's one.
Potentially, it could be mid lane. The Taliyah was definitely jungle. He played Yasuo bot, so he at least has 3 now with a top lane game. Maybe 4, depending on your opinion.
3.5, rounds up to
3.5. We'll give him 3.5.
All right, 3.5 out of 5. Not a bad score, not a bad score at all, but we'll see if it's a good enough score to take down the Golden Guardians here, rise up to 3-1 overall in the standings. Echo Fox has definitely been one of the teams that's shaken things up the most with this meta, with this volatility that we've entered into, the state of the game as it is. There were so many questions coming into summer of what kind of crazy stuff are we going to see? What's going to be the state of the game? And Echo Fox has just been that team that time and time again are like, no, we're not doing the boring thing. We're not going to do what you expect us to do. We're just going to continue trying to play these curveballs and keep everybody guessing.
And that's what I think is so cool about it. To my mind, the ideal meta is one in which you can do all of the styles, right? That it's completely viable to be a marksman only, totally standard as you understand it, bottom lane team. That it's completely viable
RNG does.
To do funnel strategies and Huni swapping around and do all these things. I think that is just really cool and very exciting that we're getting to see some of this. It is a little bit concerning for Echo Fox, though, that Altec definitely did not look comfortable on the Vladimir yesterday. He's another one of those bot laners who has not looked as good on some of the off-meta stuff. He actually was good on Mundo Top. He was good when he had his Lucian game, but his Vladimir game yesterday was a bit of a struggle, and we'll see how he's going to perform on that pick today.
And one thing about it, Azael, he's up against a Kai'Sa. And if there's anything we've learned about Kai'Sa over the last couple of weeks, it's that if you give her room to breathe, she can take over the game very, very quickly. So Altec's going to need to make sure that he keeps that under control to the best of his ability, whatever that ability may be, on this new archetype of champion.
Yeah, definitely at the same time is going to have to be very careful about all the potential dive that comes out of this team.
Yes.
When you're looking at Vladimir flying in and throwing down that ultimate, and Huni diving in with the Galio ulting on top, you have Braum ultimate being layered over, you have backline access from the Graves ultimate, that is pretty terrifying, and he is going to have to make sure that he really does play these fights out well. But at the same time, when you have a team like Echo Fox is running, if you start to fall behind, a Swain can be such a nightmare. Like a fed Swain just walking forward into your team, into ultimate, if you do not have the damage potential to burst him out, that becomes a nightmare.
And when I'm looking at these two compositions, Azael, and I'm looking at, all right, who gets to pull the trigger? Who gets to be the team that decides when we're fighting? The engage potential on Golden Guardians, you can go in with Camille. You can go in with Rakan. You have a couple really good engage tools. But over on the side of Echo Fox, you practically have to get a flank, or Vlad just presses a bunch of speed item buttons and tries to run in, and Galio ults on top of him. The engage is much less reliable for Echo Fox.
Yeah, I definitely agree. At times, it could look very potent, but yeah, there's not as much of an easy go button, right? You know, you're looking for a Braum ulti, or as you said, the flanks and those sorts of plays. So we'll see if they're able to find it, but there is also potential with this sort of style of play that it never even really comes to the team fights, because if you can get Huni ahead, if they're focusing up topside and using Galio to snowball that lane, that can get difficult. And Huni very intelligently is honestly just hiding out in a brush. And had he actually shown there, well, Contracts probably could have just killed him for first blood, but he backed off into the bush. They didn't even know if he was still there. So instead, it is just going to be... Did he just level up off the ward? I think he did.
May have, and now he's level 3. However, the Smite Secure is there from Contracts, who's now going to force the fight, has Vision of Empire to help himself out. Flash away from Dardoch, dashing back over the wall. Very clean execution. Will likely now spell the end of Contracts, but he goes down as well. Both junglers out of the picture. Huni now trying to make the fight happen. I don't know if he gets out of this one. I don't think so. It's a double kill for the Golden Guardians top lane.
Yeah, that smite was so critical for Contracts hitting level 3, and I'm not sure if Dardoch quite had his smite back up. It was very, very close on if it was up or not as he went to that blue buff, but he got level 3 off the ward, and if he got the blue buff, it would have been a level 3 versus level 2 fight. He likely would have won, but Xin gets level 3, gets the 3rd skill, wins that duel, and it's Lorlo who comes over to pick this up. So here it is one more time. Dardoch just needed that last ward, does get it. The replay shows his smite is up, but that it's not always accurate, so I'm not positive if it was or not. Either way, the smite goes the way of Contracts, and then Dardoch is in big trouble. Nice Vision of Empire there to add in the additional damage, and watch Lorlo here over the wall. He sees him on the ward, flash, gets that sweep to take out a 1 kill, picks up the red buff, takes down Huni as well. That's double buffs on the Camille, first blood, 2 kills, and that is going to make it so much more difficult now for Huni.
Phoenix realized that fight was not going to go their way in the 2 versus 2. Had to cut his losses and run, but leaving Huni to be that 2nd kill, like you say, Lorlo's in a spot where he's feeling really good right now, and Dardoch sitting on level 4, just hanging out on the side of the lane here, won't really find much success or anything waiting on him. Does want to wait on this TP, see if maybe they can set
Contract's
something
here,
up.
though.
It's going to be a full-on 2 versus 2. Dardoch shows up. Here comes your chain CC. More damage coming in. End of the line going to take Mickey very low. Contract still going to find the kill onto Dardoch. Vision of Empire comes through. And Contract with a spear to the back takes down his opponent. Dardoch in the ground for the second time in 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about how would that have gone if Dardoch actually committed forward onto Mickey, because Mickey did get very low. He was down to about 20-30% HP with Dardoch hiding away, and could they have gone forward and actually gotten that kill is hard to say, but either way, it is Contracts picking up the kill. He was in position for the potential counter gank, and now they're looking for a dive on Huni. If you get this dive with the mini wave at his turret, he's going to fall very far behind in experience, and could be lights out for Huni in the 1v1.
Here we go. Lorlo and Contract, they got to execute this one right. Huni trying to dash himself away, make sure he can avoid as much of this as possible, but the stun comes down, the damage comes out, and Huni goes home the hard way. That is a lot of EXP he will be losing from this minion wave crashing.
Exactly. I mean, the Tiamat is available for Lorlo. There's no TP on Huni, so that second death is so painful. And again, really smart play from Contracts. He has been at the right place at the right time. He is already waiting, and this is what I'm talking about. I wonder, could they have gone forward with how low Mickey got? You know, maybe if that's a dash forward from Dardoch, you at least trade a kill, but it's hard to say because maybe that means Phoenix is all in and then dies as well. Either way, it is the 1 for 0 for Golden Guardians, and credit to Contracts for getting the jungle advantage and being in the right spot.
Contracts 1, 1, and 3 so far in this game was the noble sacrifice during the one time his team gave up a kill and has been a part of all 4 of the kills they've received for themselves. 4 kills in 6 minutes.
A lot.
Golden Guardians is putting in a lot of work, and it's all coming from this early Xin Zhao play. Contract's doing a great job on this pick that whenever you see it locked in, this is what you want to see from the pick.
Yeah, it becomes so difficult actually to fight against a Xin who gets so far ahead. I mean, it's one of the most binary champions in the game. If he is ahead, he just kind of runs you down with the phase rush. If he's behind, he doesn't really do much.
He's trying to fight against Lorlo here, goes into the last breath, and yeah, it did a whole lot of nothing. Lorlo just kind of walks away, says, all right, I'm going to wait for your sword to power down and your minion wave to go away, and we're just going to keep farming it out.
Yeah, and that's the adaptive defenses, plus a relatively early tanky build here from Lorlo. He's Doran Shield, Ruby Crystal, Cloth Armor, and you get that passive for the physical damage shield, and all of a sudden you take very little damage, and Contracts is here again.
And all of a sudden, you don't win versus a jungler that's this far ahead. Contracts takes him down very easily, and now he says, hey, I got another one right in my sights. Has to back away from the Graves a little bit, decides to go right back into the fight. They've got the Swain there as well, but the fight has quickly turned the other way. The burst is strong from Echo Fox.
No mana.
Mickey trying to buy some time, very low on mana, nearly kills both, instead kills none until he gets that last auto attack. It's going to be a 1-for-1 there, but Lorlo cleans up the end.
Lorlo, the beneficiary again, gets to come on. He's like, yeah, I'll take that red buff. Thank you.
Lorlo's
Thank you
the
for
janitor this game.
Yeah,
Pop and
4
bucket at the end of the fight.
On Lorlo now is just ridiculous. He's 20 CS up, 4 kills to 1 over Huni, has the red buff for the second time this game at before 8 minutes. That is horrible for Huni to try to lane against.
Absolutely awesome start here for the Golden Guardians. 2,500 gold up, 8 minutes into the game. Again, they were in a little bit of a sketchy spot there for a moment. Let's see how this whole thing played out one more time.
Contracts, right place, right time, once again. And this would have been a slaughter, but bot lane.
Bottom side, speaking of slaughters, definitely is out of there. The Hemo Plague is going to tick down, nearly gets rid of him, survives an extra second. Matt tries to get himself out, should be just fine here, down to 200 HP. But Alltech and Fung doing a good job in that 2 versus 2. Huni now collapsing onto Contracts, who flashes over the wall. Huni goes after him. That's very aggressive. Quickly going to turn into a 3 versus 2, though, as Phoenix is quicker on the rotation, and Lorlo gets shut down.
Yeah, finally the collapse coming in faster there from Equifox. They're the ones able to punish, and they win on the other side of the map, so that is going to buy them some time. The shutdown guild is going to be pretty big going over there to Dardoch, and some good things happening now here for Echo Fox.
We talked about Contracts being in the right place at the right time, but sometimes even if you're in the right place, if your team can't get there to follow up, it's not the right call.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why you have to always respect the Galio and how fast he can come. But here's the all-in one more time. You can see the Empower Transfusion is ready right as that channels. That was a great all-in. That was honestly perfectly done. And this is something where you have to respect anytime you see that big red bar is about to charge up from Vladimir, you essentially need to back off. They time the Braum ultimate with that. The E goes in, the flash, the ignite, everything piled in. They get that kill, and here it is one more time. Contract's trying to counter jungle, but there's no vision. your mid laner is not going to be able to roam faster than the Galio, who is already out there. The top laner is closer from the other side, and unfortunately for Lorlo, he's going to have to pay for the sins of his jungler.
If that was only a 2 versus 2, that would be great. They could have got out, they could have fought Huni. Yeah, thing is, it's not a 2 versus 2, and so it ends up being Echo Fox with the better rotational play that finds themselves an edge. They're closing that gold gap. 2,500 just a minute ago, reduced to about half of that value now. Echo Fox doing everything they can to make sure that this Xin Zhao is not allowed to hit that point you were talking about, Azael, where he just runs away with the game and you can't do anything about it.
Yeah, and you have to remember that in this state of the game, shutdowns are even bigger, right? You know, get the big shutdown, it rewards so much individual gold, so that makes Dardoch a lot stronger, and the fact that Lorlo died there, you know, is fairly costly for the Golden Guardians. He is definitely their strongest member. He is quite a bit ahead. And it's kind of now, when you have picked up all these kills, when you have gotten the double red buff, when you have gotten all these things, it's your responsibility to carry the game. He needs to make sure that he's going to be staying safe.
He pops the ult, realizing he's going to be in for a fight here. 1 versus 2 does land quite a lot of damage with the Never move. Dardoch going to be taken low, has to flash away. Phoenix trying to get himself out of this one as well. Mickey wins the 1 versus 2 against these guys, nearly killing both.
Yeah, good early flash to kind of create some space and buy time for his ultimate to heal him up, and then hits a great Never move there. Trade Summoners, pushes him out, pressuring the turret. Now 3 men can move top and look to pressure Huni off the wave. Huni's going to have to just give up all this farm because his jungler is bot. His mid laner just got pushed out. You can see Phoenix is trying to roam top, but that turret may just be gone straight up, and I think it is.
First turret going the way of Golden Guardians, building that gold lead up even further yet again. Now, granted, there is first Drake going the way of Echo Fox. A Cloud Drake on their side will be a nice little bonus, but all the extra gold going into the pockets of Golden Guardians feels really good this early into the game.
It really does, and that's kind of off of the good play of Mickey there in the mid lane. Because he pushes them out, they get that advantage. He can roam top, force for that first turret. Their bottom lane is being pressured, right? So in a couple of minutes, Echo Fox likely would have knocked down this turret. Instead, they're able to beat them to the punch. They're now going to get the Rift Herald. They will lose a turret in trade, but still, Golden Guardians definitely going positive on the play. And it really does feel like the team has kind of turned over a new leaf. They are looking so much stronger, so much more coordinated this split than they really have at all in spring.
This does not look like the team that got 10th in spring split. This team seems so much more on the same page. They seem like they're making so much more of a coherent effort as a 5-man unit to make these plays, to find these advantages, and shore up the weaknesses they have. The perfect example is what you just mentioned with the bottom lane. Hey, we're about to lose our turret. Oh, okay, let's get topside first. Don't worry about it. We'll use what we got with Mickey. And that kind of teamwork, that kind of communication is what can take a team from 10th to who knows where.
Exactly, and it's one of those things where it felt like last split, all of Golden Guardians' wins were just off of X player got 10 kills, and then he was really big and they kind of won. And now it's nice to see that they are actually able to make some better map movements, to really be able to kind of be a bit more proactive, to get some advantages in other ways, because that is really something that is more reliable. Consistent macro play is more reliable than just getting random person fed who then carries the game. That's not a strategy you can often do, and here it is. Rift Herald going to be dropped mid. Nice move mid lane. They should be able to knock down 1 for free. They have Matt threatening a flank on the side. They're going to actually try to push for 2 turrets potentially here.
Contracts goes in, eats a lot of damage on the way in though. Doesn't really want to be on that front line any longer. They're just making sure Shelly gets a nice headbutt into that tier 2. Takes it down to just above half HP. But a nice call there from the Guardians to make sure they're able to take down that tier 1. And that in the moment shot calling is one thing I want to praise as well, because when we saw these guys get their win over Cloud9, the game-ending call where it looked like it was going to be a base race, but instead they say, no, 2 guys go back, Braum and Kai'Sa guard the minion in the game.
Ooh,
that kind of quick decision-making, really impressive here as well. Altec and Fung going in for the 2 versus 2 underneath the enemy turret. Altec going to be stuck. Tries to get himself away, does manage to survive. They're bringing in the cavalry now. Echo Fox looking to make those plays. They go for the last breath, able to find the damage, able to find the burst. And it's 1 dead on the side of Golden Guardians. Hourglass going to buy an extra second for Mickey, who tries to get himself away, wants to use the second part of the ulti, but just won't get it. It's 2 down on the side of the Guardians, and Echo Fox ties this one up in kills.
The collapse there so fast from Echo Fox. Huni instantly TPing in, Galio roaming up, and Mickey honestly very late on the Swain ultimate. He didn't get it off until he was already so low on HP, and that is kind of that critical threshold, as I'm saying. You need to stay above that certain level of health that allows Swain to absorb all the damage and then continue the fight. He just barely wasn't able to do it, as we'll see this one more time. The stun coming out from Lourlo onto Altec. They want to try to burst him down instantly. Matt goes in, follows up the CC chain, but there is not quite enough damage. The pool goes down. And watch Mickey here. You want to just pop the ultimate right away, but he's not able to get it out. The Galio knocks him up, taunts him, then into the Yasuo ultimate. And at this point, even with the stopwatch, he's already so low because he wasn't kind of draining throughout that. Had he had a couple hundred more health with an early ult when he came in, he might have been able to make that fight look very different.
And just as we're praising Golden Guardians for playing well as a team and making coordinated plays together, it's Echo Fox that comes together with a four-man play on the top side to bring this game right back to an even state. And this is what I like to see, Azael. Two teams, blow for blow, back and forth, keeping things even as we work our way towards the mid-game.
And you know Echo Fox is never going to go down without a fight. If they're going to lose, they're going to lose hard. If they're going to win, they're going to win hard.
Go down in a blaze of glory.
Exactly. They continue fighting. They will always come at you and look to outplay you. They have such mechanically talented players. And when you have Dardoch and Huni, these guys are just saying, well, I'm better than you. I'm going to outplay you in these fights. And that's what they are looking for. They're trusting in their individual skill to constantly get them these skirmish victories. And Huni going for the Blade of the Rune King build. Not sure if this is an adaptation or if a pre-planned thing because he was behind. And it is very, very effective as a one-item thing, for dueling. And he may be going towards much more of a tanky build. You can see the Ruby Crystal there. We might be seeing kind of what Mickey did actually the other day with Blade of the Rune King, Sterix, Frozen Mallet, this kind of semi-tank bruiser Yasuo, where you can run people down in side lanes and win these extended fights.
His opponent also finishing his Trinity Force just a couple moments ago. A big power spike there for Camille to enchant those true damage second proc of Q's and make it so she hits that much harder with the uppercut kick. You can see the Rod of Ages up to 5 stacks. Just now that number turned over from Mickey Swain, so getting that one stacked up so he's tankier in the middle of these fights. As Lourlo finds his opportunity to go on to Phoenix here. This is not a fight that Galio wants to find himself in. Look at the burst coming out from Lourlo's Camille. One more hit should do it, and there we go. 300 gold in the pocket.
Yeah, nicely done there from Lourlo, finding a kill on that Trinity Force spike that you pointed out. He is definitely still very strong, despite the fact that he did go down once and his team's been giving up some kills. Make no mistake about it, he still does have that side lane priority, and he is going to have to be someone for Golden Guardians that is creating pressure constantly, that is finding picks and drawing members for them to be able to win this game, because that is where all their gold really has gone.
Cloud Drake spawning now as both teams hang around it a little bit. You can see a lot of Echo Fox vision around that river. Just looking out for this as Mickey gets jumped on a little bit by Huni there, but nothing that he's too afraid of just yet. Goes for a little bit of damage with the Death's Hand, but Windwall is going to block that up, keep Huni topped off in terms of his health bar. Echo Fox still hovering around this Drake. They don't have the Scuttle Crab. That's going to provide vision for a couple more seconds there for the Golden Guardians. Definitely will farm up his own Gromp, and it looks like nobody's willing to commit to that objective in the Drake just yet.
And not just yet. I don't really love the lane assignments here from Echo Fox. I feel like Galio really should be in the mid lane. You want Galio to be able to respond to either side and respond to either jungle. When you put him in the top lane, maybe they're just saying, hey, you have a better chance of stabilizing and wave clearing against this Fed Camille. But when you put him in the top lane, the only place he can respond to is your upper side jungle, maybe your mid lane, right? So his options are a lot more limited, and it makes it easier for the Golden Guardians to make plays on the opposite side of the map.
I want to re-hit a point that I mentioned earlier when we were talking about engages and how Golden Guardians have a better one and Fox's tools are a bit more limited. Fox has some awesome tools for backing up and disengaging, though, with the Galio ult, with the Braum ult, with Vlad being able to pull. And with these Cloud Drakes going under their belt, they have more kite ability as well, more movement speed. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on how well that pays off for them, because Dardoch's now been able to just sneak away these two Drakes back-to-back and build up that advantage for his team, which honestly is probably going to amount to more than you'd think in a game that's already this close.